The KKK was one of the most powerful groups of the Roaring Twenties, with political, social, physical, mental, and economic power. For many people, this was a serious issue at the time, so it's very important that everyone knows about it. Anyone who is either colored, an immigrant, Catholic, Jewish, or basically anyone who isn't white, Anglo-Saxon, and Protestant should know about this. And even those who aren't, most likely know a non-WASP, and would feel great sorrow if that person were to be harmed. So then how did the KKK become so dominant in the 1920s? To give some context, in the late 1910s, a fear of foreigners and immigrants began to emerge. This fear is best described as nativism. Nativism is a distrust of new people coming into another person's land. Often, the native people aren't scared of the aliens physically doing harm, but scared of foreigners culturally doing harm, as the new types of people change their way of life to a worse or uncomfortable state of living. Natives, in this sense, were those who were WASPs and preferably descended from ancestors that lived in the original 13 colonies. At this time, nativism was at an all-time high, and many people were fed up with it. There was a big conflict between the WASPs and the non-WASPs, but no compromise was reached. The closest thing to a compromise was the Emergency Quota Act, which limited the number of immigrants allowed in the country. However, the Emergency Quota Act did not please either the immigrants or the angry WASPs, so men of the United States of America wanted to take action. The film, The Birth of a Nation, was released. Similar to many pieces of literature at the time, the film portrayed the KKK in a good light. This made the public support the KKK, although they viewed the KKK as a dead group which did nothing. Seeing this, a salesman named William J. Simmons decided to found a new KKK, with new strategy compared to the small and insignificant KKK that was alive at the time. He burned a cross atop a mountain to show his devotion to the Protestant religion, and the new KKK was started. Simmons' tactics to get people to join were quite clever, as he knew that ruthless killing and racism would not get many members, besides a few extremists. Instead, he recruited priests, by letting them join for free and giving them many benefits, along with a leadership role. Priests supporting the KKK, along with the Klan donating to charities and churches, made the KKK seem like a good, holy group of people to the public. It is also very important to remember that the KKK was viewed as an organization, not a group of deranged vigilantes like they are viewed as today. This is important because it allowed for many casual members that joined the Klan to fit into society, find friends, gain political or economic power, or most often, express their opinion to like-minded individuals. Even whole families joined the Klan, raising their children to become young nativists. The KKK never publicly supported one political party, although many of them were personally vocal about their party. This allowed a wide range of people to join the invisible army, similar to how female Republicans and Democrats join women's rights movements nowadays, or other non-party specific groups that have one focused goal in mind. With the even greater level of respect and taking advantage of the anger caused by nativism in the USA, the KKK soon became a strong group with at least 3 million, but more likely 5 million or more at its height. This may seem like a small minority of the population, but with the United States of America having a population of 100 million in the 1920s, that meant that around 1 in 20 people were members of the KKK. This included 500,000 women of the Ku Klux Klan members and many political figures, including 5 senators who publicly stated that they were members of the Ku Klux Klan. Even still, the hate group acted on immoral opinions because they thought that they were the superior class. To enforce this, the KKK still practiced beating, shaming, and intimidation of many minorities. These were very common and cruel. The demonstration that proved to the world how powerful the KKK had grown to be was the Klan's march on Washington, D.C. This drew a large crowd, giving the Klan a big attention boost that gathered even more members. There were still many who opposed the KKK and were shocked at the turnout in Washington, deciding that now would be a good time to speak against the Klan, and that they had to speak against them while they could. Also, political leaders like Presidents Harding and Coolidge held an anti-Klan viewpoint. Because of the high conflict stemming from nativism in the 1920s, the KKK's fire burned strong. But a fast flow of events quickly led the public to view the Klan as a terrible group, extinguishing their flame and causing many casual or even fairly devoted members to leave, leaving only hate-driven fanatics to be the last embers for the decade. The first blow was the passing of anti-KKK laws and publishment of the members in local newspapers. These quickly scared many members away, leaving only some who fully supported the idea of the Klan. However, when top leaders of the KKK were exposed, it showed many the true morals of the Klan, causing very many Klan members to leave the hate group. There were several cases of Klansmen misbehaving, but one of the most infamous acts of immorality came from David Curtis Stephenson, also known as D.C. Stephenson. Stephenson was a grand dragon in the Ku Klux Klan, as well as being a prominent political figure in Indiana. Although Indiana was in the north, there was still an extremely high number of Klansmen, and India had one of, if not the highest percentage of Klansmen to non-members ratio. Stephenson was one of the most prominent political figures in Indiana, and his political power was almost unrivaled. One day, Stephenson ordered one of his romantic interests, Madge Oberholzer, to accompany him to a trip to Chicago. When Oberholzer arrived, she became frightened as she noticed he was extremely drunk. Stephenson forced Oberholzer into a train cell with him, where he physically, mentally, emotionally, and sexually abused her. In Chicago, when they arrived, they fell asleep in a hotel room, with Oberholzer being scarred from the events. When the pair woke up, she asked Stephenson for money to buy a hat and some makeup, but when she received the money, she went to the corner store to buy mercury bichloride tablets in order to take her own life, because she could not bear living with Stephenson any longer. She returned to the hotel to take the pills, but she could only take 3 before she gave up, broke down, and was discovered by Stephenson. Stephenson, fearing to get exposed, brought Oberholzer home at once, trying to get her to regurgitate any poisons that she inhaled. However, he was unsuccessful, as Oberholzer died 1 month later from returning from Chicago. Before she passed, she wrote a statement exposing the KKK and anything immoral that Stephenson did. It was easily discovered through bite marks and the detection of mercury poison in her system that she wasn't lying. One of the few non-corrupt judges sentenced Stephenson to a life in jail for rape, kidnapping, conspiracy, and second-degree murder. This was the last straw for the Klan, as many now viewed the organization as a corrupt institution full of criminals and terrible people. Nobody wanted to be associated with the Ku Klux Klan anymore, and thus ended the Invisible Army for the most part. Now, only around 30,000 members remained, and the number stayed there for the rest of the 1920s and all the way up until the civil rights movement started gaining steam. This has been my documentary on the KKK. I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.